Steve, we're both having audio issues start tonight. But I promise this will be a good show.
It's going to be great.
It'll be great. I am back from New Orleans, Steve. You gave me multiple recommendations. I think we went to one of the places to check out some music and appreciated that. I think you and I will now agree with the sentiment. We need more places in this country where you can drink a beer and listen to live music before noon. Do you agree?
It was like 10:30 a.m. in your text, and I
Yeah.
agreed with that. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
for sure.
that's my
For
takeaway
sure.
from New Orleans.
Were there beads given or received, or was that
No,
you were past time for that?
we stayed out of the Bourbon Street area
Okay.
specifically during that time of the evening because we've just didn't feel like
Did you go and get a hurricane at least somewhere?
no,
Or
just
at
a
the
lot of
place?
beer,
Okay.
a lot of
Okay.
beer. Didn't
Okay.
what was the oh
So you had
we had
something to go
Pim's
back to.
cups. We got Pim's cups.
Okay.
That was a New Orleans drink. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
Cool.
so good to
Two
be
thumbs
back.
up for New Orleans, though.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the recommendations. Anyways, the name of this podcast is Stuff Summer Says with
Steve.
Steve. We have a great episode because we got I don't know that we've ever done an NFL draft, and we certainly don't think we've ever done an NFL films. Well, a little bit with Brandon Bell, but we have a great guest, Penn State alum Shannon Furman joins the podcast. She's a producer / director for a lot of NFL films products in productions, and it's a great conversation about what it's like working there and the projects she works on and kind of what we don't necessarily see on screen, but happens behind the scenes. Then I want to stick on the draft because we have NFL draft takes now. That's what we do. We give those out on this podcast. We're gonna mock draft all 250 some picks one by one. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
No, we're not.
Okay,
And
good.
then there was some media controversy in the Penn State world that we need to not address, but at least talk about because I feel that is our duty. And some wrestling. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, take a listen to our interview with Shannon, and we'll be back after this. Steve, we are joined by our guest today, who I think has one of the best Twitter handles of all of our guests ever. Our guest today is Shannon Furman. She is supervising producer for the NFL Films, but her Twitter handle is what?
Firmbiz.
It's great.
FURMBIZ.
I think that's great. I don't know why. I just think that's a great way to brand yourself, I guess I would say. But thank you for being here, Shannon. You are also a Penn State alum, and that is one of the other reasons why we wanted to have you on and have a discussion today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Shannon, I guess let's start there. You've been at NFL Films for 22 years. You said this was 23 seasons. I guess, how did you get started and why did you want to work at NFL Films?
Yeah, I was a year out of college when I started. I had kind of started my own business on the side, just like doing wedding videos and local highlight tapes and things like that. I had a job at the Borgata, the casino down in Atlantic City, in their marketing department. It was supposed to be like a short-lived thing, and then I think it was almost exactly a year to the day when I heard from Films that I had gotten the position as a production assistant. But I knew about NFL Films. I grew up in South Jersey, so I kind of knew about it my whole life. Um, there was a father from one of the hockey teams that I made a highlight video for, and he passed my resume along. So, yeah, I mean, it's basically my dream job. Probably better than my dream job. So, yeah, like I said, I knew about it. Never really thought I would end up working there. I was kind of applying to be on-air talent, like do the nightly sports broadcasts and stuff at TV stations in like Wyoming, like places like very random places. And this all kind of worked out, and I'm still there 22 years later.
When did you realize it worked out? When did you feel comfortable with the position that you had?
Probably instantly. I mean, yeah, it's a football museum. We work in a building that just it looks like you've entered a museum. It's a bunch of people who are passionate about sports and movies, the same things that you are. I mean, my job interview was not a typical job interview. When I got there, like the first thing they made me do was they had a packet of like 50 headshots of all different kinds of people from pop culture. And I had 10 minutes to fill out that packet as best as I could. And then I think the rest of the time we just talked about sports. And I remember, I think Joe Paterno had actually gotten an extension the day of my interview, and he was in his 80s, and everyone they were asking me what I thought about that. So yeah, it was not your typical job interview. So I kind of knew immediately that that was going to be a place I'd want to be.
Is there an NFL? I guess was there before you got the job an NFL Films image or sound that made that place your dream job place, or that you knew how they do stuff?
I don't know if it was like if going into it there was anything in particular. I knew about the family, like I knew about Steve Sable and I knew he was from South Jersey just like I was. So I kind of knew about the family aspect of all of it and how they brought people along. I don't know that at the time there was any one thing that stood out to me back then. I mean, now there's like so many different ones that would be considered my favorites and different and things just from projects that I've worked on. But I think it was more about the Sable family and their whole legacy that really drew me to wanting to be there.
Now, in your role, what kind of things you're doing? What does the year look like?
Yeah, I would say that I'm mostly directing. I'd probably put it at like 70% directing, 30% editing or show running now. I am trying to do more of the showrunner thing now. I directed Summer Hard Knocks for 10 years and it's a lot. I mean it's fun and it's a grind and it's really rewarding. But I was kind of ready to step away. I was kind of trying to figure out how to do that and when the right time to do that would be. So this summer kind of came along and I had an opportunity to do a project with Saquon Barkley. And so with that happening and just all the timing of it, it just seemed like the right time to kind of transition out of that role. I still directing is kind of what I'm passionate about. I like connecting with people. I like being able to like kind of be boots on the ground to tell their story from the very beginning. But I think that being able to edit and tell stories is what makes you a good director, so I don't wanna lose that part of what I've done, and that's kind of how I started, honestly, at films. When I started the group of people I started with, I was one of 6, and I was the only this would never happen now in today's world, but I was the only person who knew how to edit coming into it. Everybody else kind of had to be trained. So, I think I got my job a lot because of the editing experience that I had. So I still like to do that, but so my year's kind of broken down into I do a show called Hey Rookie for ESPN. That's like this time of year. So kind of goes from January and it runs through the draft. And then now I'll probably do another documentary or something. I don't even know what my summer assignment is. I used to go right into Summer Hard Knocks after that, but and I also work and then during the season I work on if we're doing a show for Netflix. I'll be on that show. We've done quarterbacks, receivers, different position groups. So I've spent time doing that the past couple of years. But and it can have different roles on all of those. Hey Rookie, I show run. I used to direct. This year I'm strictly show running. With the Saquon documentary, I was considered the showrunner and a producer on that show. So I edited and I put the whole show together. And then with I did in season Hard Knocks this year. Everybody gets confused. I didn't do Summer Hard Knocks, but I did do we have another version of the show called where we're with the team, a division now for the last 6 to 7 weeks of the season. So I directed the Eagles for our in season version of that show this year. And then I also did a 30 for 30 this year. It was a big year. um, I did a 30 for 30 for ESPN, and that was also on the Eagles. It was on the 2017 Eagles and their Super Bowl run. So on that show, I directed and I edited on that. So I was kind of did both ends of the spectrum, more directing, because by the time we were full on editing, I was already with the Eagles for Hard Knocks, but I did edit a small portion of that show also.
You mentioned your creative control in that process. When I think about NFL films, all the way back to the Steve Sable videos and like that iconic imagery, I do think of a certain look and feel. And as somebody that's a creative, how do you pair that look and feel with what you find creative, what you find interesting?
Yeah, I mean, I think times change and things change and stuff, but like I feel like you can kind of always tell when something is an NFL Films production. My mom likes to think she's an expert. We did a show for the WWE, and I told my parents, I was like, I know you guys don't care about wrestling, but it's really good and you should check it out. I didn't work on it. My friends worked on it. I didn't work on it, but same with me. Like I'm not into wrestling at all, but I found myself binge watching that show. And one of like my parents watched it. One of the first things my mom said to me is like, I can tell you guys did that. And I was like, okay, mom. But I think she's right. Like, I think there is a way it's shot with the slow motion and just the framing of different shots and the different lensing and things that we use that does make our stuff stand apart. And every show is different too. So it's not every show doesn't need as much slow motion, but we still try to get that look in there because I think that is kind of our signature look. So we put a little bit of a different style on all of our different shows, but still like to go back to a lot of the, the wires, the slow motion footage, things like that. That kind of is what NFL films like when people think about NFL films, like that's what they think about.
What percentage of success for you when it comes to having a good season of Hard Knocks or having a good documentary is preparation versus what percentage is the cutting room floor?
So like everything is really different. Hard Knocks, we do so much to prepare and not much of it is probably what even ends up happening because it's just kind of like Steve Sable used to say, you're building a plane in flight. And that's kind of what it was. But, we go into it with like all kinds of research being done. If like we'd like to make several trips to the team before it actually starts just to get to know people, get to see how a practice is run, just how the team operates. Then you get there and you kind of maybe a couple things stick, but you learn all kinds of new things as it's happening. For 30 for 30, we very much so like had to plan all of that out. We read books, we came up with all kinds of storyboards and like just run of show for how our day was going to go. I mean, we had that movie edited in our heads when we went into directing the shoot that day. So it was very much so planned out and we really stuck to it. I mean, there was times where the Philadelphia police were like, "Do you want us to shut down the like right in front of the art museum so that the cars?" And we were like, "Oh, we didn't know that was an option." So kind of just like on the spur of moment there, we just shut down traffic for 7 minutes in front of the art museum so we could get a clean shot of the guys on the trolley. So you adjust for things like that to happen. But on that project, it was very much so planned out for months ahead of time. I think we started planning in probably June, and the shoot took place on September 19th. So, like, months of preparation with other projects. We were cutting Saquon's film at the same time, so there was other things going on. But everyone's a little bit different. An access show is a little bit different from a documentary, which might be a little bit different from, like, some of how our weekly shows are run. So, you just have to kind of adjust and, like, make know that each thing, it might be a little bit different that you're going into and be flexible.
He asked about the two percentages of those pieces. But how much is the selection of, say, the person in Hey Rookie or the team for Hard Knocks just to get the right personalities, the right? I mean, Hard Knocks at some point rotated through and they had to or whatever else. But say for Hey Rookie, as you're looking for to make selections, what kind of things are you looking at to make sure you have a?
I think the biggest thing for me with Hey Rookie is I want people who are gonna give us access. So, I don't think it's like you don't have to just for Penn Staters, you don't have to be Micah Parsons. Like, Micah was awesome on Hey Rookie, and I can't expect every single person to come through to be Micah and have that kind of a personality. Um, Jahan Dotson did the show, I think the year after Micah. Much quieter guy, but still had a great story, a great family that was part of it, and between the school giving us really good access and the player giving us good access, for me, that's the most important thing for Hey Rookie. You have to have guys that have bought in And even if they are a quiet guy, you can still, everyone has a story to be told. If they're going to let you be there and just be part of those intimate moments as they're kind of living out their whole NFL journey and their draft dream, for me, that's like the number one thing when I'm looking for guys for that show is like, do they trust us? Are they going to let us be there for the big moments? They're good with wearing a microphone on that day where it's things could get dicey. You don't know. I mean, like, I've been around for number one draft picks, and I've been there for guys who have slipped to a round or two further than they thought. So for me on Hey Rookie, that like the knowing I'm going to get great access is the most important thing.
Is the willingness to add access, give access any different now that people have abilities to tell their own stories or maybe have their own production approaches? I mean, how much is the NFL Films gravitas something that's going to be like, oh, never mind, I could do it myself, but you're here?
I think that's part of it. When you ask, you kind of have to know, like, they have to know that that's kind of what they're signing up for. So, like, because there's some other things out there's some other productions out there. Like, we don't pay for Hey Rookie. We can't pay the players because we're part of the league. So that's like a whole another thing. But there are other productions that will pay these guys. We ask for a lot. Now I say access. We are very efficient with their time. So when they are letting us be around for a day or two and stuff here and there, we try to make sure that we're not just like sitting there all day, like staring at them in their family room if nothing's happening. Like we try to just be very efficient with everything that's happening. Whereas some of these other things, it's like they require like 25 days of shooting, stuff like that. We shoot mainly the tent pole moments and the behind the scenes part of those tent pole moments. So um going in, that's part of the ask going into it, kind of knowing that like you're signing up to do this with us. If they want to do like their own thing, like we don't really mind that so much. We kind of know that like when we're the way we're miking people and shooting people, it takes it to a different level. So we know that like Instagram, social media, TikTok, it's all kind of part of it now. So we welcome stuff like that.
And you said your mom knew it was your show, whether the NFL WWE thing. Do your fellow editors know it's a show you do, or do you know a show that somebody else shot a specific show by the way it's put together?
There's certain things I would say. There's certain cinematographers that I can tell, like, oh, that was like Hannah Epstein's shot, or like Phil Gushu got that. Like, I can kind of tell the style of different cinematographers. There are some editors that have a style. There's a woman who mentored me, Margaret Morris, and I can tell whenever she's edited something, there's a certain style to the way she does things. So I wouldn't say everybody does, but there's definitely certain people in the building that you can tell, like, oh, that person did this piece.
From a storyteller's perspective, why do we love the NFL draft so much?
I don't know. It's my favorite day of the year, to be honest with you. I was just telling someone that the other day, how like I love the NFL draft more than I love Super Bowl Sunday. Unless the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. But but like I last year doing Hey Rookie, I mean, I was at the draft. I was there with Abdul Carter and then came home, and we have to get that show on the air by Monday. So it's a crazy turnaround for that. And I remember at one point, like sitting at my Avid, like Saturday at like 1 a.m. and thinking, like, I love this. Like, this is not, I don't feel like annoyed or tired or like, I'm not like, why am I here? Like, that draft show is just one of my favorite. I think it's my favorite thing I do like consistently on a yearly basis. Like, watching people get drafted and their families being so happy and just like their lives changing is like one of the coolest things. And it just never gets old because it's always a little different. Like the reaction is always a little different, and the emotion of all of it, it's just I don't it's just a really fun show to work on, and I look forward to it every year. I also get a lot of creative freedom on that show and that day, so ESPN and my bosses are great with that. So it's just a really fun experience for me.
You've mentioned Jahan, Abdul, Micah, Saquon. I think that was all of the names I've heard drop so far. How does the Penn?
I'm trying to keep it Penn State
It's
related.
fine.
You're
It's
on
fine. We appreciate that. But how does you being a Penn Stater help with that connection?
I mean, I didn't some of the guys I know a little bit beforehand. It depends. Like sometimes I'll come and speak to a class or something up at Penn State, so I'll get to meet people ahead of time. Um, like Micah, I didn't know because that was during COVID. So as soon as I met him and said that I was like from Penn State and had worked with Saquon, like we were instant best friends. Like, so it kind of has that effect. We don't have any Penn State guys in Hey Rookie this year, sad to report. But hopefully next year we'll get back to doing that again. Um, but yeah, it does. And like and the school helps too because we always get really great access when we come up there. Um so that's helpful, but yeah, when these guys find out that like I'm a Penn Stater, we have other Penn Staters at Films too that are working on the show. Actually, former player Brandon Bell is working with me on the show this year, which is really cool. Directing an Ohio State guy, so that's interesting. But but yeah, it definitely helps the dynamics, and I think Penn State is like not that all schools wouldn't be like this, but I feel like we have an extra special connection that like when you kind of meet somebody that's from Penn State, it just you kind of instantly have a bond. So it definitely helps.
You've done the research, you're meeting them, you're getting access, you're following them along during the day or whatever the shoot is. Whatever, do you know whether it's a limited show or a longer form thing? Oh, we got that show. This is gonna be great. Do you know that when it happens sometimes?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's all the time, but like I'm trying to edit in my head as I'm directing. I'm trying to like know if we have like a beginning, middle of and an end, whether it ends up being that way or not. Like I try to do that as I'm going along throughout the day. And then there are certain times where like you hear something and you're just like, yep, that's definitely going to be used. Like I know that's going to be in the show this week. We like use a starring system when we're labeling things at NFL Films, and like we'll 4-star things that it's like like it has to go in the show. Like that's kind of the standard for something like that. But I mean, it's not all the time. Hard Knocks, like Summer Hard Knocks, is probably the trickiest one with that because that's when people ask me like what the hardest part of Summer Hard Knocks is, it's like the lack of control. I'm directing the show and then I'm like turning it over and you try to like guess what you think is going to be in it and what the best stuff was and like I mean the editors are super talented so like usually it's some of your stuff but it's some of what they found too. So I would say it's like 50-50, but when I'm directing something I'm always kind of trying to edit it in my head so that I know even if it's not done the way I want it to be done, I know it's there. Like I know they have the ability to edit a complete segment and I'm giving them the elements that they need.
That star grading system, are you a softer grader when you're submitting footage and a harder grader when you're directing? Looking for stuff?
No, I'm consistent.
Is everybody else consistent? Like, are the stars? I mean, realistically, or is it everybody's kind of on the same page that way, or do you have somebody every once in a while like, okay, yeah, we know their stars are always 3, but
We have
always something.
seminars like several times a year and stuff because it is we logging is like one of the most important things we do. I mean, our library and our archive is ridiculous. So when we're kind of like living by that and you have to trust that system, like we're constantly like updating people on how this works and like kind of what they're looking for to try and make sure everybody is on the same page as each other. It's not there's no perfect system. It's definitely has its flaws, but we do our best to kind of keep everything up to date and keep it fresh and make sure that people are educated about how it should work.
Maybe the last one for me. Let's acknowledge let's acknowledge NFL Films is the best at this, but so many people are doing it now. Who else is good at it with docs and accents? Shows?
I mean, I really like what Words and Pictures has been doing. They did The Kingdom. I believe they did, I'm gonna mess up the name of it now. They did the one on the Olympic basketball team, Quarter Gold? Quarter
Hmm.
Gold, I think it was called.
I think that's under. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I really liked that one. I think they do a really nice job. I believe the person who is running that is from a former like E60 producer who kind of started his own thing. Um, I would say that their stuff is probably my favorite that I've been watching. I know Matt Rissmiller, who is a Penn State graduate, also he is an EP with LeBron's company. Was like I don't know if they're called Spring Hill anymore. They changed their name Spring Hill Uninterrupted. But I always watch what Matt's doing. I want to kind of see what he has going on and stuff. And we try to talk to each other several times a year just to keep each other up to date and whatnot. So I'm always kind of looking at the things he's doing. But yeah, Words and Pictures is probably my favorite of everybody that's kind of out there right now. Um, I am always looking at things like that though. We just finished doing like Emmy judging, and they don't put it right out there anymore. You kind of have to dig to see who's done what and whatnot. I still love the E60 features too. I think ESPN does a great job with those. That you can clearly tell that it seems like they have a good budget for it. If they don't, they do that's an even better job. But and I also Joel Santos, he works over at Fox. He does a lot of their game day stuff with like Aaron Andrews and Carissa Thompson. I'm always impressed at his interview sets when I like see him in person and how he can turn like an indoor bubble into like looking like an amazing hotel room in like 3 hours is kind of crazy to see. Like if you'll go look at one of like Aaron or Chris's like game day interviews, you can kind of tell, but it's the lighting and just the way he builds a set is crazy.
It's funny you say that because that's something that sticks out in my mind anytime I watch them as well. Um, we have to know what was something you learned about Saquon in the documentary process that surprised you, that you didn't know about him or changed the way you looked at him.
That's a good question. I mean, I've known him for a long time. It's been 10 years now, which is crazy. Um, and I feel like, I mean, I hope we did him justice for Hal because he is such a like he's such a competitive guy, but he's a loyal guy too. I mean, at the time, like he wanted to be with the Giants. Like those people were his friends. They drafted him. He wanted to win for them. So he really did want to be there. It's hard when you start talking about money and things like that and to understand the contract thing. And like some people are like, it was $1 million. It wasn't like it's we tried our best to explain it and have other people kind of come in and explain it. But I guess like how fiercely loyal he is, like I knew it was there. I don't think I realized like how deep it was. Um, but that's probably the biggest thing. There was nothing that changed how I looked at him. I truly think he's one of the best guys in the league. I'm not just saying that because he's a Penn Stater. I mean, he loves football. He loves his friends and family. Um, just a really good, solid dude who is always trying to do the right thing.
Awesome. All right. You are a Penn Stater. We have a couple questions before we say goodbye to you. They're very quick. Your go-to creamery ice cream flavor is?
Peanut butter swirl.
Oh, good answer. Good answer. We haven't had somebody say that in a while. That's one of my favorites. You are in charge of Penn State athletics for one day and one day only. What change? What are you doing? What thing are you doing?
Oh my goodness. I don't know.
We've
somehow winning us a national championship in football.
That's a perfectly acceptable answer. That is a perfect.
I don't know how I'm doing it, but that would be the thing I think my life is missing. Is the Penn State national championship.
We've probably had a couple hundred guests on this podcast now. It feels like, and most of the Penn Staters say, "Oh, well," and like the big one was hockey at Beaver Stadium. But I think you're the first person to say a Penn State football national championship. That was.
I mean, somehow. Maybe we'll do it now. Okay. Who knows? I don't know.
All right. I like that. All right, last one. You are back in town for one night and one night only. You can walk into any establishment, living or dead, if you will. What establishment is it?
I mean, probably the Field. I love the burgers at the Field. And that wasn't even there when I was in school, but I go there with my friends now a lot. That's where I always take the crew when we come back for pro days. We always go there and we get the buckets of fries dumped on the table, and everybody's always impressed with all of that. So that's usually my first spot. My favorite spot when I was in school that's not there anymore is Mad Max. So we used to go to Mad Max, just to go to the happy hours and get the big margaritas, and do all of that.
I thought it was going to be all grown-up answers, so that's good. I was like, This is the first grown-up answer we've had at the Field, and then we got Mad Max. That's good.
No, RIP.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Shan. Where can people find you, your work? What's the next big thing that we should be tuning into from you?
Yeah, Hey Rookie is on. It's the next big thing, and that's going to be on ESPN the month of April. I actually don't know if it's on Monday or Tuesdays this year. They kind of flip-flop that back on us from time to time, but it will be on either Monday or Tuesday nights. And yeah, the other shows I work on air on HBO and Netflix. And you already told them my social media handle, but I'm FirmBiz on both Instagram and X.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Steve, one thing that I always think about with anytime we do an interview like that is I'm always impressed by the fact that they can create an aura of NFL films like we talked about, where I know when I flip on the TV and watch NFL Network or really watch Hard Knocks or anything that group touches, I know it's them. But Shannon can put her own creativity on that, and it was fun to learn about that. I appreciated that, and I think that is probably what makes places like NFL Films beyond the what's the word, the ability for you to reminisce on for you in your childhood. I think that's really cool. I think that's neat.
Yeah, I think she talked about the ability to know who some of her colleagues are and what their pieces are by way things are edited, and then also the importance of logging film so they can go find whatever else, and an A grade is an A grade for everybody else. That was really cool. And her with the story about, because she edited, she could edit. That's how she got an early opportunity to do some stuff. But certainly her skill set has made her valuable for much longer than that and continuing. So I think that's impressive.
It is funny how like that has shifted, and like she almost snuck in at a great window, because that was at the time like a very important skill to have, or a unique skill to have. And now you see, I mean, obviously even us, we have to edit our videos and things like that. Like I think I'm interested to see how content in that way gets better over time once people are more accustomed to having it the same way I've been accustomed to having the internet all of my life and you haven't, type deal. So that was a backhanded compliment calling you old. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's okay. That's okay. And to be clear, there, even on her worst day and my best day, there's nothing that she ever edited that I was even in the ballpark on.
Yeah, no.
So
100%.
her level of skills of having editing is a different animal.
We don't really do the same thing.
Yeah, and her passion is just, I think that's the through line with all the people we've had who, they don't say no to opportunities, and their passion drives them, and I think that's just great to hear.
And passion for the game too, right? Like I think it's one thing to be passionate about what you do, but it's another thing to be passionate about who and what you do it for. And I think that shows a lot of times for all of these people that we've talked to throughout this. Okay, cool. Well, thank you to Shannon for joining us. That was great.
Very much.
Okay, let's stay in the NFL draft realm, and then we can get to the media controversy. You had texted me about Drew Allar this weekend.
Did I?
I think you did at some point. I was pretty sober this weekend, Steve. Okay.
I wasn't drinking. That's why I don't remember. What did I say?
We said we were talking about Drew Allar at some point. We were talking about the draft, because he was in some ways maybe the most talked about, maybe not the most talked about, but one of the bigger talked about topics of this NFL draft. I guess kind of semi-related. And I know I started with this joke, but has the NFL draft in and of itself just become a content creation machine? Is it all just for TV? Like, is there any other purpose to the NFL draft and the combine and this whole process other than what we're doing? Or like, why do you think it's hard for us not to talk about the draft?
I think it is. I think the combine, right, was the question.
Yeah.
I think it's a content creation machine, and it's what's the test for stupidity? It's because No, because the Wonderlic was the test that they gave. They don't give anymore.
Yeah.
It is the test at this point for if somebody's just totally ill prepared. Because it has become such an industry to prepare for the NFL draft. They run the same drills in their camps. They do whatever. It's almost, if someone comes to the draft and does poorly, it's a test on their mental acuity if you're having accepted the opportunity to fail. So I think that's what it is, the content creation thing. And it's a sorting out of low-hanging fruit of people who just did it poorly. Otherwise, I don't know that there's a lot of value. Sorry.
Go ahead. So I guess, and there you pretty much summed it up there for me. And I think I was thinking about this in particular with Drew, because I think he's the most fascinating quarterback that Penn State has had in my lifetime to really go through this process and kind of be under this microscope. And Hack was there were questions about Hack and what he was going to be, and obviously he didn't get necessarily a fair shot and all of these other things in his process. But it is fascinating to watch the amount of conversation and content and happenings and thoughts that are being provided around how high Drew Allar should rank in this draft. And I almost kind of think this is maybe one of the bigger stories in the NFL draft this year. And I think that, to me, is what's so interesting. And at the same time, I don't know that anybody from the Penn State point of view can give you an honest POV on the Drew Allar experience, because we collectively do not know what to make of it, because it was so all over the place in so many different ways.
It feels a little bit like James Franklin from the Penn State perspective and James Franklin from the national perspective. I think if you're watching the draft, the combine for sure, and you don't watch a lot of game tape, you look at it and say, oh, look, measurables, look at that, throws a good ball, did a great job, wonderful. If you're a Penn State beat writer or fan who's watched a lot of it, you're like, okay, yeah, but there were a bunch of outs that were at people's feet, and there were some poor decisions. And yes, that 2 years ago didn't throw an interception for 3/4 of the season. I can understand the reason for the different opinions. It's hard for me to envision it. It's hard for me to envision a team taking him as highly as some people think they're going to take him, or as I predicted they would take him. I don't know. I know there's not a lot of good guys out there, and a lot of guys have hung around, but I don't even know. I don't even know if I feel like he's a hang around for a long time guy, workmanlike kind of guy that has been around for 8 years as a backup. I don't know. It will be interesting. It is intriguing. It'll be whether or not he's going to make family life-changing money in the first round, or he's going to stick around. I mean, it's all life-changing at this point, but I understand why there's differences of opinion, I guess, from seeing him as a Penn State fan and watching his interactions with the media. I can see why he comes across as a nice person and people think he's a good dude. I just don't know that I want him under center for my NFL team.
Was there ever an athlete that, and I can't think of one, and especially because in my lifetime, the combine / the NFL draft has gone from a thing that was just on TV to fill some time on a random Saturday and Sunday to a multi-billion-dollar industry. It seems like. Was there ever a Penn State football player that you can think of that has been this debated already?
Hack wasn't, because people were more out on his accuracy, and he didn't have that season. Although, gosh, it feels a lot the same. Like when people said, "Oh, Hack had a great pro day." Well, no shit. Nobody was playing defense and nobody was rushing him, right? It's the same thing with this situation. Oh, he had a great combine. Okay, he didn't have to backpedal and make a decision, right? If he did, the news for all the combine people is if they were to have a bad day. Back to the low-hanging fruit comment. I don't remember LJ. I think people were divided on LJ because I didn't know as much as a fan, or didn't seem to consume as much as a fan of the attitude and stuff like that. Because I still maintain, if some guy from Ohio State had rushed for more than 2,000 yards, as LJ did as a senior, without a member of his offensive line on the all-conference team, that would have been a Heisman Trophy winner if that person were from Ohio State. And at Penn State, he wasn't. So I don't remember if that was debate about him going into the NFL then, and the NFL valued running backs a little more back then. So maybe he was a little more debated, but again, decade ago plus at this point, right? So right. I don't know if the NFL draft merited that much discussion.
No,
as deeply. It did, but maybe not as deeply as this. So no, Drew may be one of one in terms of what that discussion is presently and how that discussion is treated.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the discussion evolves, and I think it is, to your point, it is the James Franklin local versus national kind of storyline is fascinating in all of this. But I think the biggest difference being most people locally had concretely made up their mind of what their opinion of James Franklin was by the end. Like, I feel like even we did. But when it comes to Drew, everyone's kind of like, well, there's a list of wells on this side and a list of wells on that side. And somewhere in there is the quarterback. And I think it's an interesting, I'm interested to see how Penn State's media beat, how the national media versus the local media kind of covers this run up, because this is going to be maybe not the biggest football story, but will be the number 2 biggest football story from now until draft weekend for Penn State.
Certainly for Penn State. And he, it seems like what I'm consuming is he's the third quarterback off the board. It's just a matter of when that happens. Right. Is it going to be end of the first round, like the most optimistic people think about it? Or maybe is he a third round? Because, Diego Pavia is the height thing that keeps him from being, I guess, elevated, perceived higher. And maybe he feels a little bit from afar and not close enough to it, but just with the lower hanging fruit test of, yeah, go ahead, be true to you, but maybe interview a little bit differently and drop the chip on your shoulder. Yeah. But, no. And your mentor is Johnny Manziel. I mean, to Drew Allar's credit is, Johnny Manziel isn't his mentor, so that's a plus.
It's an easy no-brainer decision there. Okay. I just wanted to dip our toes into the Drew Allar NFL draft debate, because I said a couple of weeks ago, I don't know that my body's ready to handle it or ready for the Drew Allar NFL draft debate and the takes that are going to come, and they're interesting. Okay, let's stay in the realm of football here before we get to wrestling. There was, speaking of quarterbacks, speaking of the media, there was a little bit of a dust up, I guess we could say, between the Iowa State beat and maybe one Penn State beat reporter. Mark, if you're out there, we'd love to have you come on the show. But this past week, Penn State did which this was different. I've never seen this before, or don't remember this. They brought a bunch of guys in to do roundtable media discussions with, including Rocco Becht and a bunch of other transfers. And Rocco walks in the room and kind of has a smile on his face, and Mark says something about, have you ever seen anything like this? And then posts on Twitter, new Penn State QB Rocco Becht discovers he's not in Ames anymore. Cole seen at his first PSU presser. Stay tuned for more at Lions 247. And that seemed to have been grabbed and probably upset, it seems, some Iowa State folks. To the point where Chris Williams, who runs Cyclones Daily, which seems to be one of the bigger voices out there, said some of these coastal elites who cover Penn State just can't keep Iowa State's names out of their mouths. All of that is to say, have we reached the most boring point, the rock bottom of the offseason?
Gotta hope so, right?
Okay.
You gotta hope if this is what the news is. Well, and to fairness, it was new to all the media covering Penn State as well.
Right.
There hasn't been this broad base of an approach to bringing out people and making them available. So that it was news to them as well. Yeah, and I think it's it's one of the social mediaification things that just happens every once in a while. Something gets under, somebody has to respond to it. Somebody pops something out there, maybe not in any kind of ill-meaning way. Hey, this is different. What do you think of this? And somebody else is like, "Why, you're taking a shot at me because we're not as big as you." I think everybody needs to go to their separate corners and just let it. I mean, not that it went beyond that. So, although there both the incoming Iowa State guys and the outgoing Virginia Tech guys, it does feel from the Penn State fan base for sure, and maybe it sometimes perks up in the media this, they're going to someplace lesser and they're coming to someplace better. And I don't know about that. I mean, it's been 40 years since Penn State's won a national championship in football. So it's not like, and it's not the media's job to protect the place either. So that's interesting to me.
I think what is interesting about it is two things. Number one, I think this is a part of experiencing college football is like you experience how different parts of the country consume and engage with college football, and that's important to always kind of keep in mind. And I think there's that. I think number two, what's interesting to me about this is it does feel like this is a step up in the big leagues for the Iowa State. Conceivably, like I understand that, right? Like the Big 12 doesn't get as big of ratings as the Big 10 does. The Big 10 is one of the two big conferences in the country. The Big 12 is not. Iowa State is kind of only ever occasionally been in the national conversation because of Matt Campbell in part. So I think there's that. Whereas Penn State's always been in the national conversation. So I certainly understand where Mark was like coming from. And I don't, to your point, I don't think he meant any ill will at all. And I do think that maybe Chris Williams seemed to have a little bit of an overreaction, but also could understand why he was feeling defensive because there are a lot of people that do cover Iowa State football. Do I know if it's as many or more? I'm doubtful because I just know that there's a lot more media coverage or a lot more media outlets in the state that cover Penn State football than Iowa State football. It's, in some ways it is the only show in town out there, but you also have Iowa football, kind of right around the corner. I don't know. I thought that was I just think it was like, this is like peak off-season content, though. That was my main.
This is the kind of stuff that gets you. This is the dog days of no college football, right? This is the stuff that gets you through. And so, until you find out if you're playing a spring football game or whatever else. Or you wait till you have a whiteout.
Yes, correct. And Chris and Mark, if either of you or both of you want to come on the podcast, it's an open door.
Maybe they're good friends and they're just playing people.
Yeah,
right?
we are happy to. It was interesting to hear Penn State's media beat referred to as coastal elites, in part because Pennsylvania is a landlocked state. But I digress. Okay. You tried to give me some homework, and I feel like you've done a better job following wrestling this year. So I gave you homework.
Okay.
Penn State wrestling. Three things. Penn State wrestling has hosts the Big Ten tournament or Big Ten championships this weekend. This is the point in the year where people like me, not that I haven't watched a couple bouts this year, but like people like me really start to pay attention. People like you or other rabid wrestling fans in the state are chomping at the bits for. So what are your three things that I said? I said Steve's three things, parentheses, gonna lean on you here more. So give me your three things.
Third is I hope all the fan base gets to enjoy a happy coronation. Like that this is a celebratory, great weekend of Penn State wrestling. Penn State wrestling lives here, right? That they push with the program. There's a builders showcase down the road by the airport at one of the big indoor gym places. If you have a ticket to the wrestling, you get in free to that. Like that's how much how pervasive this is with some of those things. I know the restaurants in town are happy with the students on spring break to have everybody in town. I don't know how people serve them with the students on spring break. But I just hope they enjoy a happy coronation. The Athletic today dropped the story, I think it was, about college sports dynasties. And the picture with it is kale. And the reference, one of the biggest references, mentions of a bunch of other sports, but the reference that's most prominent is Penn State wrestling. So that should make people happy. So I hope they enjoy the happy coronation at home. And also because this, I think, is the last year that they're guaranteed to be at campus sites. I think the Big Ten's going to bids for sites, which doesn't mean a campus site can't win it, but they're not going to do their normal rotation. So I hope that happens. Number two
is to your. There was a lot of hope there. There's maybe some anxiety in there.
No, there's no twos. There's no anxiety with two either. Two's actually specific to a number for a Penn State wrestler.
Okay,
Levi Haynes. I really hope he out wrestles his seed that everybody's all upset about. I mean, good Lord.
Can we talk about this? Can you explain this to me? Because everybody and their brother seems to be very upset about this. I don't know. It seems like the Big Ten changed the seedings of how the seedings work, and now Penn State can challenge that seeding.
And I guess they will. They probably have. Yes, they outsourced it. The coaches aren't doing it. I just, as a fan, I don't care. If you think he's the best guy in the country at this weight, so he's certainly the best guy in the conference. Yes, he beat the guy he's behind in the pre-seeds. He's number 2. He's going to meet him at the finals if they wrestle their seeds anyway. I understand. If he's 2, he might have to face somebody different in the semis. But you know what? He's arguably the best 74-pounder in the country. How about, of all the stuff, and this goes back to 3 in the happy coronation. Yes, somebody screwed up the seeds. Okay, our guy's the best in the country. Let's just watch him win.
Thank you.
I feel like this is. Yeah, I feel like this is part of a, not that they did it on purpose, but this just feels like much ado about nothing. If Levi Haines is the best guy in the country at his weight, and certainly the best guy in the Big Ten, which may both be true, just go out and win a few mounts and you're done.
Again, as somebody that follows wrestling but is not into it the way some of these people are, I was a little confused because I thought to myself, well, if he goes from the 1 seed or the 2 seed, is there really that much of a difference? And
he's got to get the 3rd guy in the semifinals if they wrestle to seeds. Okay, well, if he was 1, he was better than 3. Yeah, is it a poor seeding job? Yeah. Did their process not work? Yeah, probably. But he's the best guy in the country at the weight. Like, that goes back to me to the happy coronation. Everything, it feels like sometimes everybody feels like they're against them, right? The best team in the country. Enjoy it.
The team with quite honestly, like some of the largest investment in the country of any Olympic sport that isn't football or basketball. Yeah. Okay. All right. What's your number 1?
Number 1, still happy. Joy, still part of coronation. Okay. Still going to rely on Levi to win. These are all building. This will be the first time Penn State has won the Big Ten title at home, this championship at home ever. Like the other times they've hosted, they haven't won. So I think that would be big. I mean, there's not many things this team hasn't done or the team hasn't done in recent years. Winning Big Tens at home would be one of them. So it'll be nice for them to add that to the checkbox of stuff, and I fully expect that to happen.
I actually meant to look this up today because I was wondering about that. When is the last time Penn State hosted and won? And I couldn't think of it. So I'm interested to see. Friend of the podcast, Michael Valania, if he's listening, he gave us some fair criticism about our hockey versus wrestling take in terms of some of the numbers, the TV numbers that come from that. I'm interested to see, like, what's it going to take for wrestling to turn over this like corner that it's kind of seemingly like almost stuck at like this niche sport about to be explode into this big sport. And I wonder if, back to your point, like, how does the Big Ten championships and how does BTN help get them over that hump? Because I think it seems like to me, again, trying to make it clear how not that much I know about wrestling, this seems like to me to be the showcase for the sport prior to the NCAA tournament. And in some ways this is more dependable, I guess, than what the NCAA tournament is in terms of this is the home of college wrestling. Yep. ESPN is not the home of college wrestling. BTN is. And so I think about that to me is probably the most interesting thing is like, are we going to do this every year or can they sustain this growth, continued growth that seemingly they're having?
I think BTN does a good job with wrestling, and it does. I mean, Shane Sparks is great. Jim Gibbons, those guys, that whole crew do a good job. Tournaments are tough. Even dual meets are tough because you got the individual score, you got the bout score, you got to deal with the score bug. I mean, it's not the most intuitive thing for casual fans. Tournaments are even tougher because you got to update the team scoring and know what's going on. I think they do a better job on Big Ten Network during this tournament than they do during nationals with team scoring. I really appreciate wrestling and didn't wrestle, but have covered it from high school to now. So 40-some years of covering wrestling in different ways. I don't think there's a corner to turn. Like, I just don't. I don't. It's where it's at. I mean, and I don't think that's because anybody's being nefarious about the decisions they make. But we talked about women's basketball being the third sport. It is comfortably. And women's volleyball is behind that. And women's and softball may be behind that. There are a couple things that are going to draw better ratings and just do more nationally and do better nationally than wrestling. It's just not going to change. But that doesn't mean that anybody's against you. And I think that's the kind of the thing that I think all wrestling fan bases think. They don't like us. They don't appreciate our sport. And it's just hypersensitive at Penn State because they're so good right now. I don't think anybody dislikes it or doesn't respect the work, but it just doesn't play nationally. No matter how much you love it, it just doesn't play. And the only way to change that is to make it less of what the hardcore people like. And I think that would be hard for them to deal with.
I think that's fair. And I think that was kind of where I wanted to go with that conversation. I think that, yeah, I think ultimately, I do think about the even we see this with women's hockey and the gold medal, and that feels to be on the rise again, or having its big moment, kind of as it ebbs and flows. And this happens every 4 years that there's a competitive women's hockey team, and in some of the same ways that women's soccer for a while there, and then it kind of broke down that, I don't want to say curse, but it kind of broke through, and now the National Women's Soccer League is very well respected and you know, a major TV driver and for women's sports and all of these other things. I think wrestling, some of it also makes me wonder about like the conservative fan base nature to wrestling is a big part of it, right? Like the two big states are Pennsylvania and Iowa, relatively conservative states, the sport in itself. And I think that is also another reason why it is both caught on and also may potentially to more liberal audiences or liberal states not catch on. And I think there's something to be said there. But I do think maybe it's less about the us against the world mentality and more of us not against the world, us embracing the world mentality that needs to happen from wrestling. And I think that to me, and we had Shane on the podcast, we talked about how what I appreciate about him is he educates me in this. And I think that's the type of voices that need to kind of be lifted up to help wrestling grow is more of the educators and not necessarily the nitpickers, if you will.
Yeah, or the people like, I think ESPN has gotten away from it, thankfully, of trotting out whichever Baldwin brother it was who wrestled in high school or college, and they brought him out at nationals each year because he was one of the Baldwin brothers. He brought no expertise more expertise because he competed than some other people. But give me someone who's passionate and knows the sport and is speaking to that core audience, inform, engage, entertain that core audience. I do think of the two sports I've covered in my lifetime that if you take someone to that they've never seen before, if you took someone to a wrestling match, the one-on-one competition of just the battle, the loud gymnasium, if you've got a place, will get someone interested. Okay, I can see why this would be appealing. As a TV sport, it's not great. And then the other one is auto racing. I think if you take someone to like a short track somewhere, there's loud, there's color, there's whatever else. If the public address announcer is good, you get to know the personalities of people. I think those are two things you could take a neophyte to who's never seen one before, and they come out and think, okay, this is interesting. I could see why people like it.
That's fair.
But I don't think there's a corner to turn for wrestling. I don't know that it's maxed out. You can do bigger arenas and sell some more tickets, and man, tickets aren't cheap for nationals, and they aren't cheap for Big Tens. But it's not going to be. What sport is it going to leapfrog to become more popular on mainstream media? Not basketball, not women's basketball.
It would have to get past,
football.
at least in the collegiate ranks, it would have to get past softball at minimum, I think.
Right.
Because,
I mean, it's probably out there more than college hockey, right? Because there's more on SEC network or ACC network and Big Ten. There's probably more wrestling on TV than there is.
It's probably pretty close.
Yeah.
All things considered. But I think to your point, I think at least with wrestling, there are brands in the sport like Michigan, Penn State. And these are, of course, I'm only naming hockey schools, but then there you have Oklahoma State, you have Stanford, you have Cal has a team still, right? You have like some of those schools out in that part of the country. You've got the ACC.
I mean, Oklahoma State, Iowa did that great TV rating for ESPN.
Right.
And Oklahoma State, Penn State probably won't do that number unless they wrestle at Oklahoma State, because if they wrestle at Penn State, it's probably Big Ten property. I mean, I don't know. Because it's kind of like football, like it'd be their home match, if that's how it works. So I think there are places for pops like that, some bigger one-offs, but I don't think it's to the detriment of the sport that it's not going to grow exponentially. I think it's a wonderful sport. I just think the level it's at is pretty much where it's going to be.
I think that's fair. You make a good argument on that. Okay. Anything else? Any other? Are you going?
No, traveling this weekend.
Oh, that's right.
So
You're traveling.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's everything on the proper agenda. This week's old guy, young guy. Not stressful at all. You get so anxious when I come out. Sorry, I haven't. When's the last time I asked you a quiz?
We haven't had a gotcha one in a while. There haven't been lyrics from What's Her Face in a long time.
What's Her Face? Yes, only the most popular pop star on this planet. My old guy, young guy. What is Steve's comfort food?
Oh, that's interesting. Leftovers.
Just leftovers. Just leftovers. Like not as particular leftover, just like the concept
leftover lasagna in the mornings is always one of the best things in the world.
In the morning?
Oh God, yeah. I'm not a breakfast eater. I mean, when I eat healthy, it's like granola and yogurt in the breakfast. If I get a routine to do that in the morning, but I think Italian is probably my comfort food.
Okay.
Anything Italian, like pasta, Italian food, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Because I mean, I can understand breakfast pizza, like heated up microwave pizza, like after you like get some Domino's. Love that. That's just.
I'll heat up a piece of leftover lasagna. It doesn't even have to be heated all the way through, and it's
slightly,
but not good for me at all. Yeah,
but sure.
You asked. What about you?
A lot of ice cream consumed as a comfort food in this house.
Okay.
Like but like to the point where we don't keep ice cream in the house. We have to go get the ice cream. Like there needs to be a penance to going to get the ice cream.
That's fair.
I'm trying to think what else.
Chocolate would be the other one for me. Sorry, as you say that.
No, that's a good one. I know you like chocolate.
It probably is a food group for me, and that's probably a bad thing.
Other big one, popcorn. There's a lot of popcorn consumed in this house.
But then you don't have to leave the house to get it.
That one, no, that's just right there.
Straight up, like Jiffy Pop, or is this gourmet kind of stuff?
No, the generally preferred is I prefer the what is it? Something theater, movie theater. What? Not movie theater. It is. I don't know. It's very buttery. It's like the super buttery. It's got an orange box. I just pick out the box. However,
and then pop it in the microwave, or is this?
This is put in the microwave in a bag. However, we do have one of those. It's like a kettle, and you put the kernels in, but you don't need to put any oil in. And something about this kettle, the way this kettle cooks. It's not a metal kettle. It's like a glass kettle. The way it cooks it, you can get the stovetop without doing the whole stovetop thing.
Okay.
So that's
very cool.
Okay.
Popcorn just makes me thirsty, so then that's not a good thing. So
that's fair.
Susan would eat popcorn more than I do.
No, we consume a lot of popcorn in this house. Okay. All right, I'm just curious. Thought about that. See, not stressful at all. Now I'm hungry. Okay.
Same.
I might write about the Drew Allar thing a little bit. There is wrestling this week. There is the final home series of the men's hockey season. The women's hockey team will play Syracuse. They already beat Syracuse. They will play Mercyhurst, I believe, in the AHA championship. So there's a lot going on. So we'll have something at some point. Might dive back into the financial numbers as well. Just poke around at those some more. So we'll see what the week brings for me. I don't know what the week will bring for Steve, but
a little bit of wrestling, I think.
Okay, a little wrestling. Stuff. Always good to have some wrestling stuff. All of that, though, you can find on the website, which is stuffsummersays.com. On that website, there's a section called With
Steve.
All you We have a podcast. You just listen to that. 5 stars, thumbs up. Appreciate that. Subscribe, all those things. We have emails. Mine's Darian at stuffsummersays.com. Steve's is
Steve at stuffsummersays.com.
perfect. Other than that, you can find me on the internet at Stuff Summer Says. You can find Steve
At Steve Samsel.
See ya. Bye.